Kamikaze cut right here, man. Sean Watts on the track. Zeus, Don One, Rude Boy, Quill, The Gift, and yours truly, Fred Knoxxx. I'm 1 in a million with $1 million flow. Fred DiBiase got the power in it though. If it's a problem, let me know, or I suggest you let it go. Cause it ain't worth the problems that be knocking at your door, homie. Please don't make me hurt you. Disrespect the boss, ain't treated like Virgil. Cause when I write raps, it's beyond your price tag. He's a waste of man.
And welcome back, everybody, to the unpopular review Around Da Bloxxx with Mike Knoxxx and the Z is Silent Wrestling Show. Listen, people, it is a plethora of wrestling information we have to unload on you today, people. Listen, because people around the wrestling world is always talking this and talking that. They forget one thing. Wrestling is hashtag storyline. So if you don't understand that, then don't even talk to me about professional wrestling. Listen, people, make sure you follow me on all the social medias. Where's that at, people? I wonder. I don't know. It's absolutely free. Wherever you are, we are. And as always, I am your host, Mike Knoxxx. And indeed, you can see this fly shout out the chalk line for this macho man. Woo! Jacket I got on. Like this jacket, I am hardcore. And as always, welcome to the program, my tag team partner, my right-hand man. Hey, Oos, you gonna get him? Welcome back, Dice Man.
Yeah, your boy is back. Back with the foolishness, back with the nonsense. Mr. Dice Man, a.k.a. Mr. Z is Solid, a.k.a. Dice Man Holla, a.k.a. Big Kifk in the chat.
There he is.
You already know.
People, listen, like I said, we have a lot to discuss on the program today. But unlike last week's guest, which we are saddened by the fact that Flying Brian Pillman Jr. did not win the AEW tag team, but he said they will be back. The Varsity Blondes will be back one day. But today, listen, I've been trying to get this brother on the show. I mean, it hasn't been a couple years now, all right, to try to get this man on the program. Listen, now I've said this time and time again. I'm going to say it here and I'm going to say it now. When wrestling podcast radio shows began, there was a handful of them. There was not a plethora as there is today. There wasn't your mother's, sisters, aunties podcast who think they know professional wrestling or have a microphone and it's time to talk. No, people went to school for this shit, okay? And I'm one of them. Okay, and along those, we're talking about 11, 12 years in the game. If you do not know this wrestling podcast, do me a favor. Look on the ground, keep looking, and smack yourself in the back of the head because these guys are the forefathers of wrestling radio, conversationalists. Now, you have your guys we love and love and love and love, but there's no one like this guy right here. Welcome to Around Da Bloxxx. From Busted Open Radio, he is my friend. He should be yours, Mr. Dave LaGreca. What's going on, Lackafunza?
Mike Dice, what's up, boys? How are you?
Good, man. Good. I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed.
I'm happy to be on the show finally.
I appreciate you coming on. It's always been you always said, let me know, and then life would happen, so I didn't let you know. This time, I'll let you know. You tagged you in. You came around the blocks of Mike Knoxxx. How you doing this Monday night, Raw night, I guess you could say.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we got Raw tonight. That's always a big thrill.
Yeah, it's always like the hardest thing to watch in wrestling television. It's Monday Night Raw. And we're morons because we still watch it. And we're still hoping for the best. But let's just hope for that tonight. But that is not why I actually have you here tonight. I want to just pick your brain. I ain't going to lie to you. Show them the shirt you got on, Dice. Show them the shirt.
We are all family.
This is true.
That's why I wanted to have you on. I've always been enamored by your conversation, enamored by your energy, first and foremost, and secondly, your knowledge of professional wrestling. And in this business, it's all about that. It's, you know, you have a storyline, Busted Open Radio, and I follow that storyline, and I'm a big fan of you guys. And I just love how long we're older guys. You know, I'm 45. They make fun of me all the time, like, you're the oldest guy in the party. You're old. You know what? We're old. So because we're old, we've seen it all, Dave. Talk to me about, and those who do not know who you are, your love for this business and how long you've been in love with professional wrestling.
Well, compared to me, you're still a baby, Mike. So whenever you're feeling old, just invite me on. So no, I'm 49. So as you know, like, wrestling and we talked, Bully and I talked about it on our show, Busted Open this morning about it's just it's different. I'm not saying it's better or worse, whatever. It's just different than the wrestling that we grew up on. Like,
Absolutely.
it's I don't think there's anything, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, any form of entertainment that has changed as much as pro wrestling has changed in the last 20, 25, 30 years. It's completely different, but I still love it. I'm still passionate about it. I'm lucky to have made it my career doing Busted Open on a daily basis on Sirius XM. And I just love kind of, I mean, and I talked about this too, and I'm glad that, and I think the T-shirt that you're wearing today, Dice, is fitting in the conversation that we're having right now. Is that as fans, we've kind of lost our way. Like we used to be up against, as fans, we used to be up against people that didn't like wrestling or said that it was fake, and that was kind of like who we used to battle. Now it seems like we fight amongst ourselves, like we fight within our own community. Like AEW against WWE and vice versa and this and that. And it's just like, it's crazy. And I never thought I would see that within our own pro wrestling community. But in 2021, that seems to be the game right now, is that because pro wrestling has become mainstream, because pro wrestling has become popular, because ESPN talks about pro wrestling and major publications talk about pro wrestling, it's not us against them anymore. Now it's us against us. So like the family that we once had, the community that we once had, which was strong, just seems to be fractured right now. I'm sorry to put this on a sour note, but that's what I feel like. That's exactly how I feel like right now.
That's how I deal with every single day in wrestling. Like literally, I am on this show, and I've 10 years, 12 years I've been doing this now. And I used to be at a peak, and the peak's not there. But I tell people I stay because I want to bring. Remember, if you're a Christian, your job is to bring the lost to Christ. Everybody's a believer. Make them a believer. When in wrestling, I want to make people still believers. I cannot stand wrestling fans to just bicker and beef over. My love is pro wrestling. I'm not a WWE mark. I'm a wrestling mark. I'm here for pro wrestling. And the worst thing I cannot stand is, like, I remember being at WrestleMania in New Orleans, had a chance to meet you guys down there for the Bosa Open at Barcade. You guys had did that big event down there. And I remember coming to the building and telling everybody, I came back like, yo, it was such an unpleasant event that when once Roman and them came out, the booing that came, I'm sitting there like, this one guy wanted to fight me. You're cheering for Roman. You're a fucking moron. Like, really, dude? Like, I'm a moron. How you think you look right now? And I just cannot stand those kind of, wrestling fans in general. Like, go enjoy. You don't like, you do like, that's your business. Move on. Dealing with what you just said, is that one of the biggest challenges you have in our community is trying to find that common ground just to get along with fans?
Yeah, I mean, and I felt it even on the show today. Like, I'll get tweets and I'll get phone calls from people calling me. The big in thing now is calling me, like, you mentioned a WWE mark. Now I'm an AEW mark. And people say I'm on Tony Khan's payroll. And like, listen, I'm not on anyone's payroll. The only people that pay me is Sirius XM. Nobody else pays me. That's the only company that pays me is Sirius XM. I tell you my honest opinion. Monday Night Raw, I'm not a big fan of lately. It's tough to get through 3 hours. So people accuse me of hating on the WWE. Well, how can I hate the WWE when every single Wednesday morning I praise NXT and I go on social media and say how much I love Friday Night SmackDown? I mean, there's more to the WWE than just Monday Night Raw. And I do want to see AEW's. God forbid, I want to see a company outside the WWE thrive and survive and succeed. I do. I root for AEW because I want to see them do well, right? Competition and options are something that we need. But I think that's the biggest thing. Right now, it seems like if you praise one company, you're against the other company. If you praise one company, you're a mark for that company. Just like you were saying, Mike, with Roman Reigns. Hey, if that's the person you love, if Roman Reigns, 5 years ago is the reason you watch pro wrestling, then great. Be a Roman Reigns fan. I'm with you. WrestleMania 34, if you left and didn't watch the main event between Roman Reigns and Brock, well, you missed a great match.
Yeah.
So you're only cheating yourself when you do things like that.
And you mentioned when you started watching wrestling, and I mean, amongst our journeys and conversation, we both have a love for. You think Ric Flair is the greatest wrestler of all time? That's your favorite wrestler of all time. Dusty Rhodes holds. It was the first time my children ever seen me shed a tear, and I remember my son said, "What are you crying for?" And I said, Dusty Rhodes just passed away, and he said, "Did you know him?" I said, "No, I didn't, but because of him and your grandfather, I love professional wrestling." And that's a love that, you grab onto as a child and you hold on to. Why are some of the reasons you still hang on and love pro wrestling the way you do? Because you're one of the guys. I have a couple of friends. Shout out to my kicks is my fixed nephew Corey. I'm a belt king. He's a belt emperor. He has about 40 championship belts. So help me, Lord Jesus. He does, and he still watches from this innocence. You know what I mean? And my kids helped me through it, watching it. Like, for instance, just going to bring up real quick the zombie crap. No, it wasn't for me, but my kids sat here and laughed at that shit. You know what I mean? So it was kind of odd. So what has kept you grounded and still loving this thing we call, pro wrestling?
I just think it's in your DNA. Like, once you fall in love with wrestling, that's it. And it's kind of like being a fan of a sports franchise, right? Like, if you're you're seeing it right now with the Knicks. I live in Jersey, so I'm surrounded by Knicks fans. Like, the Knicks. When's the last time the Knicks won an NBA championship, right? It's been
1972.
Yeah, it's been decades and decades and decades of coming up short. It's, Patrick Ewing's finger roll instead of just dunking the ball and getting past Indiana. Or, like, you're a hardcore Knicks fan. Like, you can't change teams. You can't just take off those colors. It's kind of in your blood. It's the same thing with wrestling. Like, you're a diehard fan, so you go through the good times and the bad times. And a lot of times with wrestling, there's some really highs and there's some really lows. And it's not like it's bad. I can't come on your show and say, wow, wrestling is really bad right now. Because there's some great moments. Yeah. There's some great things that happen. There's some great matches. There's some great shows. But you got to stick with it. And I think that's the biggest thing is I stick with it because I love it, and it's a part of who I am. It's part of what makes Dave LaGreca. Dave LaGreca is pro wrestling.
No, that's box office Dave LaGreca. Okay. And your rant from today on MJF. Your rant from today. And I'm listen, I go back before Busted Open became the Hall of Fame show it's become. You know what I mean? Back in the day, I remember it was about 6 years ago. I get my new car, and I'm, XM radio. I'm like, is this fucking wrestling on the radio? Like what is this? Like, I'm doing a podcast at this time. I'm on Blog Talk, and a couple of guys knew from there go to Sirius XM. They do the basketball show on Saturdays, and I'm like, man, this is wrestling though on the radio. That's not. It was a couple of guys in Milwaukee. Shout out to Dave here on those guys. They were out there, but like, you guys were big time. And I'm listening. I'm like, yo, this is amazing. My wife is like, you're really going to drive in the car listening to wrestling conversations? I say, you listen to sports talk every morning. What's the difference? This is my lane. You gave me hope that I can still do this in this business. So how hard has it been for you? Because I mean, you got guys out there like Sam Roberts, right? And they've made their splash, and they're getting their little time on the A&E programs and Rosenberg. And I know you've met these guys, and I've come across some of these guys, but you actually know these guys. How do you stay grounded, and is there a purpose? Is there a plateau? That's the better question. Have you reached a plateau, that proverbial brass ring, and getting wrestling heard by the masses?
I mean, it's great, and thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. But no, I'm still hungry to get to that next level, and it's about respect. Like, you talk about numbers, you talk about listeners, you talk about sponsors, like all those things happen for Busted Open, which I really appreciate. But I'm still looking, even within the walls of Sirius XM, is to get the respect like, the NFL shows do or the NBA shows do. And I got numbers that compete or exceed those shows.
I don't even know what those numbers look like. I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah, but I still don't get the respect. Like, I'm still Dave LaGreca, the pro wrestling show guy. Like, well, yeah, but you need to start recognizing that I'm up here and I'm not down here just because it's pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is up here. Like, pro wrestling is popular. It is important. It's a part of pop culture. It's a part of our culture.
Facts.
Like, it's right here along those lines. And I'm still thriving for that. It still keeps me hungry. It still keeps me grounded. But to answer your question, I haven't reached that plateau. I haven't reached that ceiling yet because I'm still waiting for that.
How was the transition going from the original group on Busted Open to, Sirius XM? From all reports I read, the ones who made the changes, you know what I mean, to put out the team. And you were one of the guys, let's just say, be honest, was blessed to stay there, right? When they decided to make these changes, because you guys were making wrestling mainstream. They saw the potential at that moment. How was that transition, being you were friends with the guys that you used to work with?
Well, the original group was myself, Doug Mortman, and our producer was Mike Riker. Mike Riker and Doug are still very good friends of mine. Mike Riker left and moved on, and he got another job in radio. Doug Mortman is like, he's a VP at Sirius XM.
Okay.
Like, don't feel bad for Doug. Doug doesn't feel bad. I mean, he's seriously, because we all had side gigs. That's the thing.
Okay.
Like, when this show started, it was just, like 1 day a week for an hour, then 2 days a week for an hour, and it kept expanding. So we all had kind of like our quote unquote day jobs, and they both pursued those day jobs, and they have found great success. And I stayed with Busted Open. I felt it. This is what I wanted to do. I didn't want to move on to anything else. So I'm glad I stuck with it, because it's without a doubt the best job I've ever had. So
it's got to be one hell of a ride. You get to work with Hall of Famers. You get to talk professional wrestling in so many different ways than we can. I have another hashtag. You heard my first one, wrestling is storyline. My other one is death to dirt sheets. I cannot stand dirt sheets and the crap that people will read off of these things. And I call people, Dave, citizen reporters. You're a journalist. You've been to school. You've got your degree as well as myself. So you know what I'm referring to when I say that.
I'm going to just cry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but one thing I will correct you on: I am not a journalist.
You're not a journalist. Okay, my apologies.
I am not a journalist. I'm a talk show host.
Okay.
Because I get that all the time. Well, you're a journalist. No, I'm not.
Okay.
Like, I've never uncovered a story, or I'd never.
Right. Okay.
So I'm just a talk show host. So go ahead, Mike.
But you have an end to things and people and access, rather, that others cannot, try to obtain in that realm. And doing so, I've gone from calling into you guys' show to being, I tried to take over the bus driving Mike job. Then I became Orlando Mike. Then I said, hey, I'm coming to New Orleans. I'm going to meet you guys. Remember that conversation, Dave, we had on the phone that day? And that day, your Hall of Fame co-host, Mr. Mark Henry, said to us, come on by. We got you. Remember that? Come on by. That morning, I seen him in Access, and here we are. We're getting mobbed by fans like we're wrestlers. I'm just nothing but a fan. Okay, we're the Ultimo Dragon of fans. We just have belts. And he gave us a head nod, and I was broken. See how he's laughing? This story echoes
I do remember this phone conversation, by the way.
Because he said, and I quote, yes, come over. And he must have had a really bad morning for Access that night. And we got a chance to meet everybody later at Barcadia. But I just wanted to bring it up to you guys. Because I know people be thinking like, you might have made this up. Like, no. Okay, I'm not living in an alternate reality. This is not Army of the Dead. Did that or did that not really happen? Okay, great movie, by the way. Shout out to Dave Bautista for that. If you haven't seen that, Dave, I like that movie. I personally fucking love it.
All right, I'll watch it then.
Okay, I personally love it. I just tell everybody watching it, and just enjoy it. If you like enjoying movies for what they are, then there's something that you cannot enjoy about this for what it is. But Dave, who are some of your favorites that you had a chance to interview in this game? And you had a chance. I mean, you finally got Undertaker.
Yes. But before we get to that though, Mike, but Mark did meet you guys and was like, you guys were able to connect, correct?
No, he gave me the head nod.
No, but even at Barcadia?
Nope. He got, and remember, Mark was the first one once it was over to dart out. He was the first one to dart out.
That's very un-Mark Henry like, because I've never, and I'm not just saying this, I have never met a wrestler that's been more fan friendly than Mark Henry. Seriously, like he came out. I did that thing with Thunder Rosa. Yeah, he came out to Buda, Texas, and he hung with all the fans for hours, just like BSing and stuff like that. So, I owe you one. I owe you one.
As they say, my heart, if you can see.
I owe you one.
Because part of the crew was like, one of the members of the crew was like, no, opposite of what you're saying now. And I kept saying, nah, I spoke to him. I've spoken to him several times in the air. We're good. And when he did that, I mean, he literally just gave us the old, and there's no way you didn't know who we were because you saw us that they had all the suits on, the belts. They escorted us out of the access. Yeah, that is the picture behind me. How about that? Okay. They escorted us out of the building because the fans wouldn't leave us alone. You know what I mean? But hey, it's water under the bridge now. But again, those interviews,
speaking of Mark Henry,
yeah.
You get to see him on a basis. How is it watching that transformation of him lose that weight? He looks amazing. We saw Big Show lose a lot of weight, but Big Show is still big. And Mark Henry, he's a big guy, but he doesn't look like a big guy now. How is it looking at him now?
He's in great shape. He, and you hear about this in other sports, like offensive linemen. When they retire, the first thing you have to do is lose that weight for your health and stuff. And Mark's done a phenomenal job. He's in great shape. He takes care of himself, exercise, eating right. So, it's unbelievable because he's lost like a person. Like he's lost like a physical person.
He looks like he lost a person too.
Yeah. So he looks great.
See, it's people like Mark. My wife got him in this morning. She went for our daily walk without me. And I was a little upset. She said, "Are you walking for me or are you walking for you?" And I had to pause and say, damn it, you're right. I kind of walk to see your ass, but hey, I do walk for me. So, but if you see my wife's ass, well, no, you cannot look at that. Let me stop. Moving on. Okay. Look at Tyson's face.
It up, not me. Don't blame me. You're the one that brought it up.
Is McMahon the last interview you need to be satisfied in your days of having to be this host of a great, awesome, busted open radio? My kids cannot play a wrestling game, by the way. Anytime somebody gets, busted open, they literally bust out, busted open, just so you know that.
I like them. They're great. I've actually already interviewed Vince McMahon.
Okay.
So Vince McMahon's off the bucket list. Like you mentioned, Undertaker's off the bucket list. Man, it's really hard. Like for the most part, I've interviewed everybody. I've interviewed everybody. There's not a lot. I mean, one of the few was, and I actually was able to do it during the pandemic, was Thunderbolt Patterson. Thunderbolt Patterson was always somebody I wanted to interview. I interviewed him, Bob Roop. I mean, mostly like the people that are on my list of people that I want to interview are more the old school guys.
Yeah.
But I've been very, very lucky, though I never had the opportunity, unfortunately, to interview Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes, I would have loved to, and Dusty passed away during this show's run. I never got time to interview him. Never got a chance to interview Randy Macho Man Savage, which bothers me to no end. But I've been lucky enough to be able to interview pretty much everybody I've had on that list of people I wanted to interview. I'm very lucky in that respect. And the number one, of course, is Ric Flair. So
I knew you was waiting for that to come out there. And Tommy misled me, Dreamer, on Saturday because you were brought up on Saturday's show and he said you hadn't got a chance to do McMahon. So I guess I missed that one.
I mean, you can now call in on Saturday and tell Ryan McKinnell. Was it with Ryan? It was
with Ryan. It was with Ryan.
You tell Ryan McKinnell, hey, I was listening to last Saturday's show and you guys mentioned that LaGreca never spoke to Vince McMahon. I have spoken to Vince McMahon. So
okay. So before we let you go, we have a question today on today's show. And it's the question that's been around the internet, right? And that's right now, like the NBA, the NFL. It had a logo for professional wrestling. Who you think would be on that logo for professional wrestling? Who would you put there?
Wow, that's a tough one.
Because to me, I say the NBA should change it. It used to be it was going to be Jordan. I remember people always say no, it wasn't. If you go back, Jordan didn't want that. Everybody says Jordan's an arrogant, this and that. Jordan said he didn't want that to be his, the logo of Jordan to be on the NBA because it would take away from the NBA and to keep it Jerry West. But now since we had the sudden unfortunate death of one Kobe bring, Black Mamba Bryant, that's kind of leaning that way. So now wrestling fans, like we always do, we run social media. There would not be social media without professional wrestling fans, by the way. I'm going to know that. When wrestling's on, they take over Twitter and social media. But I gave you time. That was my disclaimer. Give me somebody. Who you put on the logo?
I mean, you have to kind of narrow it down, right? So,
so start with your Mount Rushmore, and then you got to pick one.
All right, so my Mount Rushmore, just really quick. I know that's not your original question, but I'll morph it into the Mount Rushmore.
No, see, that's called. That was my journalism integrity that tagged that in there. So you see that?
All right, so my Mount Rushmore would be Ric Flair,
of course,
Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan,
okay,
and this is going to surprise you a little bit, Terry Funk. That's my Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
So Hogan's out.
Okay. He would lose too many people supporting the product if he was on there. Okay.
Hogan's out. I'm gonna take out Stone Cold as well.
Oh.
So I'm gonna put it between Flair and Funk. Now, Ric Flair is my number one, but I'm gonna choose Terry Funk, and here's why.
Okay.
Because Terry Funk wrestled throughout many different generations, had many different styles. Like that guy could be an N.W.A champion that was a mat wrestler, but he could be ECW doing a moonsault into barbed wire. So my vote for the official logo of pro wrestling would be a silhouette of Terry Funk.
I like it. Okay. Different.
Now, do you really like it, Mike, or are you being kind?
No, I'm being, it's your logo. So it's what you would make it.
That's not my logo. It's pro wrestling.
It's pro wrestling logo. Now, for me, and I'm going to go jump the gun, I thought you would go with Flair because I could just see him, the woo, how he's in the robe and he's just his hands out. I could see that. I could see it savage. Even though I hate to admit it, I could see Hogan's kind of because it's silhouette of a logo being there. I'm not sure. Or that. See, I was thinking maybe the pose, right? Because to me, the pose is synonymous. And just it's what made me, I told you before, a Batista fan. Seeing them live, he had a pose down with Hogan, and I was like, I'm watching him, like instantly, I know what it is, whatever we like pro wrestling, we like pro wrestling. It snapped with me, Batista's that guy. I became a Batista fan.
All right, I like it, Mike. But you were kind of referencing the NBA logo, right?
Right, yes.
Okay. So, as soon as you see the Flair silhouette, instantly it's Ric Flair. Instantly, Randy Savage, or instantly it's Hulk Hogan. But there's a lot of fans that are diehard NBA fans that don't know who that is.
Yes, this is very true. Yep. Yeah.
So you got to be like, well, who is that? And you'd have to say, well, let me sit you down and let me explain who that is. Or, you know what? I'm a big NBA fan. I love the NBA logo. It's a part of me, but I don't know who that player is. Let me look it up. Let me do some research. Let me look. I think it would be the same thing with Terry Funk, because Terry Funk, not some people will get it and some people won't. So then you're going to have to know your history. You're going to have to ask somebody. You're going to have to.
I just want nobody remember the ketchup and mustard match between him and John Moxley.
Yes.
I don't want them to go back to that ever. I want to remember that before there was that debacle of a barbed wire bomb match, that Terry Funk did this every day. Terry Funk.
That was like exactly. I mean, I think that's like this is a great topic, by the way. This is like a topic for a show. Like,
you can go ahead and steal it. It's okay. Just give me.
If I ever did, I would give you full credit, of course. But it would be.
I throw it off the internet anyway, so it's fine.
It would be Terry Funk.
It'd be Terry Funk. I like that. So we got your Mount Rushmore. We see everybody can find Dave LaGreca on Twitter. Bust it open, ready if you guys do not know. I'm just sorry. For me, I find it hard pressed for wrestling fans not to know who you are. So if you think that's like a big accomplishment, I I'm sorry. I think it is. I'm not sure if it is or not. I think if you're a wrestling fan and you listen to any kind of wrestling radio or podcast, they should know who Dave LaGreca and Busted Open Radio is. Because to me, you guys are the tip top. I'm a big fan of Cheap Heat. Okay, I think he's great. You know what I mean. And then for those who like Sam Roberts, I have nothing bad against Sam Roberts, but I do want to ask you this before I let you go. What are your thoughts about dirt sheets? Like I said, when I mentioned journalism, I figured because you guys have the ins and outs. You get your news how you get your news, and you don't necessarily, guys, and I listened for years now, you don't really dabble in dirt sheets. You get it word of mouth, or you would use words like rumor mill. You won't use dirt sheets necessarily. Do you think they're good or bad for pro wrestling?
It's a great question, because when Doug and I started the show, one thing we said was we didn't want it to be an audio dirt sheet. We didn't want to have spoilers. We didn't want to report on any spoilers or spoil it for anybody. So that was a big thing. Man, it's rough. It's tough for me. I'll say this. I understand that dirt sheets have become kind of a necessity, because since the veil has been pulled back and Vince McMahon has basically said what you're watching is predetermined.
Yeah.
I think a lot of fans have had to needed some kind of realism to still captivate them to watch pro wrestling. And I think that's become the dirt sheet, like the behind the scenes, the politics. I think that's a big reason why people still maintain their fandom for pro wrestling, is because of the dirt sheet. So it'd be easy for me to say I hate dirt sheets, it's ruined pro wrestling, and condemn it, but I really can't do that, because even though I'm not a big fan of it, in a lot of ways it's saved it. So it's become, I guess, to kind of go back to, an old Eddie Murphy line, it's a necessary evil. If you ever seen, what was that vampire movie that Eddie Murphy was in?
Vampire in Brooklyn.
Vampire in Brooklyn, where he said when he talked about necessary evil, the dirt sheets is a necessary evil.
Well, folks, there you guys have it. Make sure you follow Dave LaGreca on Twitter, on social media. Their podcast, Bust Open Radio, is also available where.
Did he freeze on us?
I think he froze on us, Z.
You're the host. How can you freeze?
That's all right. I'll just fill in. So you can listen to Busted Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to noon on Sirius XM, Fight Nation, channel 156. You could subscribe to the podcast. It's available on Apple, Pandora, Spotify, and Stitcher. And the podcast is different than what you hear on Sirius XM. So even if you listen to Sirius XM, I still suggest that you subscribe to the podcast. Please rate and like it and give us a 5-star rating. And you could also go to Pro Wrestling Tees for any Dave LaGreca shirts. And you could go to Cameo and get a cameo. So I think we lost Mike.
I think we did. Well, listen, thank you for lending us your time, your mind, and I hope that later on down the road we can do this again.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me on. And tell Mike once he becomes unfrozen that I appreciate him and thank him for letting me be a part of the show. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, look, it looks like I got the solo show right now. I don't know where Mike is, but you know what? The show must go on, and it will go on momentarily. Please
he shows up. I see you because you're a fan of this. So he shows up. He's driving this fancy car. I'm terrible with car names, so don't ask me what it was. He drives up, and he looks at Jake Atlas, who I just did not know, not even who he is, but I was like, oh, he's still here. So he shows up and he said, hey, man. And I would have asked Jake Atlas this too, personally. I would have said, hey, park this right here. To which Jake Atlas rudely says, yeah, well, the $1 Million Man already beat you there. Ha, ha, ha. It wasn't even funny. His delivery sucks. He's like dry oatmeal to me. I don't know why. Like, I look at him and, I just personally – I just don't like Jake Atlas. Like, I saw him it's I don't know. I just don't like him. You know, you ever looked at someone in the face and you just wanted to punch him, like just punch him right.
Well, yeah.
You're from the Bronx, so yes, you have. Do not tell me.
God, I'm being attacked for where I'm from. This is crazy.
Hey, everybody! Looks like y'all back with Big Kifk. Kifk. Oh, my solo show just ended.
I'm back.
Never
I'm mad.
mind.
I'm mad. I gotta come out this expensive $1,000 robe jacket right now. Man, welcome to Florida, people. Jesus. When I tell you, I looked up and the Knoxxx 5000 was buffing also. I said, what the fuck? Like, damn. I pay all that money. You can see I paid money. You can see that outfit. Look at that jacket, y'all. That thing costs money. Look at that thing.
You gotta
right
bring
there.
it back. You gotta bring it back. Don't
There
put
it
it up.
is.
You gotta bring it back.
Okay, well, there it is. That's all you're gonna get right now. I'm mad. Jesus
It's
Christ.
right. Me and LaGreca, we close it out like champs.
All right. Jesus, man. I am completely embarrassed, but it's okay. We are back. I'm not embarrassed. Shit happens. Listen, so welcome back to the show, Dice. What an interview. Like I said, I've been trying to get him
That was
on
great.
for quite some time. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to get him on. Wish I could have outed him better than that. And I'll get it back up with him. No problem. No time soon. But a lot of things in the world of pro wrestling has happened this past week. And one of the biggest things that's happened this past week is we were continuing with the WWE releases. And this week we got the release that people thought we would have months and months and months ago. And one of those releases was the Velveteen Dream, aka Patrick Clark, or not aka Velveteen Dream. Patrick Clark was released. Now I had an opportunity to interview Mr. Patrick Clark Jr. A few years back, as Tough Enough had ended. I was a Patrick Clark Velveteen Dream fan. I think most wrestling fans were fans of one Velveteen Dream. However, things happened. He put himself in some uncompromising, if you will, so to speak, positions, allegedly. And he had, been held back on television. The question is, did you or did you not believe what was being said? Dice, for those who don't know, refresh them and let them know snippets of what he had to say upon his releases. He released at least a good 2-page, explanation.
That motherfucker was an essay.
Yeah,
that motherfucker released an essay. It was like your college professor told you to go write a 6,000 word essay on what you did not do in reference to these allegations. But so I'm not gonna. It was broken down into 2 photos, on his Twitter, and I'm not going to go into the first part because the first part is just the intro of everything.
Right.
But the main thing that I think that most fans didn't really take into consideration when accusations get brought up against athletes of any profession is the facts. And
say it one more time, please. The facts.
And the facts of the matter are that the most important stuff that he put in there, it says Josh and Jacob are 2 of many people that I've helped, yet those are the only 2 who have found me to be malicious and predatory in how I got into helping others. That information wasn't shared at the time. And I remember we talked about this issue a lot. We talked about it a lot, and those 2 names never popped up. And no. I had to go back and look at old tweets, and I never saw those 2 names. So the guy, Josh Fuller, reached out to Jacob over social media before Josh put on his own accusations. And then Josh Fuller temporarily deleted his account, which is at Josh Fuller PW. So it's pretty on this. Usually I don't believe accusations in this sense because, for one, you just don't want to see that type of shit happen, especially not to a black man in America in a profession that he's really good at and people love him. But for the simple fact that it's a disgusting thing to be accused of, and if it's true, it's a disgusting thing to be caught in. So I gotta say, I'm gonna go with Too Sweet on this one, and I'm gonna believe what Velveteen Dream is saying. Not putting my fandom aside, I'm gonna believe what he's saying, because who's to say that it's not real? Who's to say it's not true? And at some point, WWE had to have seen this. If he shared this information with them, at some point in time, they've had to believe him as well, because they've been investigating for like 8 months. Come on, if I got to investigate something for 8 months, I'm good. I'm good on that one. So I think there was some belief on WWE's behalf in what he was saying, but I just think that the backlash that WWE got from everybody saying you cut Samoa Joe, but Velveteen Dream is still there, and yada yada yada. So I just think that I just think that the scene was too hot for him, so they let him go. Point blank period. They just let him go because the scene was too hot for him. He lost the steam that he got, and he pretty much just, did we lose Mike again? I think we lost Mike again. Something's going on, but you know what? Show will go on. So this is I think this is all just 2 words. Take them, stick them sideways, shove it. We don't really care for the rumors. So but what we want to talk about next is Monday Night Raw last week was just WWE has a problem right now. Can we all agree on that? Can we all agree that WWE has a problem? And it's a Raw problem. Raw has got to be the weakest show on WWE right now. If I'm lying, I'm flying. Like LaGreca said earlier, WWE Raw, it has moments, but those moments are spread out in 3 hours. So it makes me have to continue to watch this unbearable sight that is Monday Night Raw. I pretty much watch it for like 3 or 4 things, which is like Rhea Ripley, RK Bro, see what MVP is going to do, and then see if The Fiend is going to show up. And which The Fiend still hasn't shown up. So, really I'm watching for like 3 things. And, then it's, we got to wait till Friday for the real excitement in WWE. I mean, NXT is good, but, for the simple fact of the matter is that the best thing going in WWE is the Usos and Roman Reigns. I think that any wrestling fan would agree. If you don't, then there's probably an issue with the way you look at pro wrestling, but that doesn't mean that you're stupid. I'm not going to call you stupid, but it's probably an issue with the way you look at pro wrestling. But AEW was still just coasting to me. It's just coasting. But I think that them finally getting the title off of off of Darby Allin and putting it on Miro, I think that's a great move. Like you don't get somebody with the caliber of talent that Miro has in WWE and then put him in AEW and not let him grab some sort of title. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Z is Silent Around Da Bloxxx. I am your new host, Mr. Dice Mayor Holler. We got a special guest here, aka Mr. Freeze. All right, everybody, chill.
I've never had internet problems in my entire life. You know how. Let's keep it a bean. We're gamers. We make fun of motherfuckers who got bad internet connections. I just made fun of somebody on Friday for having a bad internet connection on the SmackDown show. I want to cut the fucking show. I'm pissed right now, dog.
You cannot. This is my solo show debut. This is I'm doing great right now. So right now we just finished up talking about Raw and the small, like LaGreca said, there's only moments of Raw. And when he said that, I had to go back and think. Every show that we've done on Monday reviewing Raw, we've literally only talked about moments.
What, like this moment there?
I just said it. I care about
Bobby
the
Lashley?
Hurt Business. I care about the Hurt Business.
What about
that's tonight?
That's
because
tonight?
Riddle, we got a small heel turn. We don't know what it is. It's a tweener turn. It's a tweener turn.
We got these ladies going again tonight.
Anytime Nia Jax is on Raw is a good night. Oh God.
We didn't talk about the SmackDown, the Bloodline.
Can we please get into it already?
Go right ahead, because I want to know what you think about this man popping up out of nowhere.
Listen, you know what I hate? I hate when it's Friday night and I'm chilling with my baby boy, and for some reason I fell asleep. I got to him. He had a good day at daycare. Fed him some Gerber food. He fell asleep. I fell asleep. And then I wake up and I get the notification from Bleacher Report. that Aleister Black is back. And I was like, damn it, why did I do that? Now I gotta watch the stream back, and I know that he's coming, but I don't want to fast forward to the end because it's cheating. That's just cheating. So
it was I thought it was probably the best fatal four-way match I've seen in WWE in the past couple of years. It's really the
best one that I've seen in a really long time.
It was really, really, really good.
Think the
I did not like the ending.
That match would have to be Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens did exactly what he said. Hold up, before you even speak, your guy Sami Zayn, Sami Zayn was literally everywhere doing the manipulative shit that he always does. And I loved it. I loved everybody portraying their characters in that match. That match could have done no wrong at all. But the simple fact of the matter is, why Big E? And in my mind, I'm thinking, why Big E? But at the same time, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, you know what? This is good. This is good.
It's good.
This is good because
this
prolongs Big E's plateau to go up for that Universal Championship.
Well, that was already plateaued by them keep planting the seeds of the Shield fighting again.
Yeah. So
since now Seth freaking White Jesus Rollins came out and beat the shit out of Cesaro.
Yeah,
again.
That's the part where it gets blurry for me in that Universal title picture. I still think that they kind of hold that match off till maybe SummerSlam. If the John Cena July 16th rumor is true or not.
I think it's true.
I think it's true as well. But subject to change. Let's think about the next couple of opponents that he could have. Obviously, Seth is in there. Who after that? He took out Cesaro. Do we really want to see KO fail again?
No, but does KO really fail? He's not going to get Roman right now.
He's not going to win against Roman. He can win the title, but he's not going to win it against Roman.
No. That's why I didn't understand about them. As great as the match was, right? And SmackDown, I mean, typically does no wrong. And I thought SmackDown was a great show. Probably the best wrestling show of the week to me. And I was at NXT, and I'll be at NXT again tomorrow night watching Finn fucking Balor. Sorry. Taking my NXT title with me. And I don't take my titles places, but I'm taking my NXT original title with me so I can hope to see Finn and he signs it. But I don't know if I liked the end because I'm attacking Big E. I wasn't sure about that because I was like, okay, like you just said when you opened up your soliloquy, why Big E? We're going to find out. And that's always my thing when it comes to professional wrestling. I'm cool with reserving the right to see what happens next. So I'm
in my great wrestling predictive mind, the only thing that I can correlate spoiler alert. The only thing that I can correlate between Big E and Aleister Black is the dark upbringing of Aleister Black versus
the preacher,
the constant powerhouse of positivity in Big E.
The preacher
He's
man.
Always freaking happy.
He's the son of a preacher man.
This is what he did in the interview. This is what he did. Kayla!
First of all, he came up from the bottom, and I was wondering where he coming from. That's what I thought. I was like,
what is you doing?
Where you coming from, Big E? Kayla, what are you down there doing, girl?
But I mean, so Aleister's probably tired of the fucking positive shit too. So I think that's probably the only thing that I could think of, and I'm for it. I'm for it. But more importantly, what now happens with that IC championship with Apollo Crews, because he squeaks by again.
I loved it. I love that he was the winner of that match. I'm more interested in what happens. What did Roman whisper to main event Uso that he said about his brother? Because his brother now has a match against the Street Profits for next week. He said, he don't need you, but I need you. He told you he don't need you, but I thought it was great when he went back and he said, hey, we got a match. And Roman said, we said, I'm the tribal chief. You're the main event. This is we. I don't know what that is, but we are here. He has not bent the knee. So there is no we until he bends the knee. Then he whispered sweet nothings into his ear, and all of a sudden the match is on. for next
Jay
week. So,
it looks like he's going to he's in a horrible predicament, and as a family-oriented person, I can't help but to feel for Jay, but I can't help but to feel for Jimmy. Like,
right.
It's like everybody, whether you want to believe it or not, everybody has a favorite cousin, a favorite sibling. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got 3 sisters, I got 1 brother, and I love all of my sisters equally, but it's always the one sister that I butted heads with the most as I was younger, who is now my best friend, my confidant. Every time I can call her or text her, and we would talk about absolutely nothing for hours. And I would say I'm the closest with her, so she's my favorite sibling, but that doesn't mean I love my other siblings any less. And
right.
I feel like that is where any person that's a fan of wrestling can identify or agree with that, because sometimes you don't agree with your siblings. Sometimes you don't agree with your cousin, but they're still family. So at some point in time, you guys going to have to figure out, where do we go from here?
Welcome home, Roscoe Jenkins. That's me and my cousin. Like, to the T. Ask my wife. Yeah, I took her there for my cousin's wedding, and she must have flipped the freeze pop spilled on her. And my cousin said, "Oh, let me get that for you." But I'm drunk. You know how it is when you get drinking. I hadn't been home in 10 years. So I've been drinking. I'm since out of Chicago. I feel home. See that bottle? I'm like that. And she had open bar. Okay. And I said, "What you looking at my wife for? Don't looking at my wife like that. What's wrong with you?"
Mad Dog, how you doing, my brother? Thank you for stopping by.
He's just like, she's just like, he's just getting the napkin for me. But tonight on Raw, we're going to talk about that momentarily, but we want to get to the question we also asked Dave LaGreca, and that was, who would you put, Dice, on the logo? If WB had a logo like the N.W.A, which superstar would you put on that logo? Dave LaGreca said for him, it would be Terry Funk. Again, I don't disagree with it, although it would be my pick. Okay. But what I would say for my pick, I still don't know. And I gave him a lot of time to pick that, because to me, you could pick one of 3 people, if that makes any sense. All right. I refuse to say it would be Hogan. I'm like Dave LaGreca. He's out of here. Politically speaking, he fucked all that up. Okay. So Hogan is not in that logo, although he would probably be the best one. Like you said, either the leg drop or I said the pose. That would be the best one. Yeah. From that, I would have to go. I could see it being Flair. I could see it being Hogan. I mean, not Hogan. I'm sorry. Rock or Austin. And that's where it leaves me with those 3 where I'm not sure. You could clearly have the Hell Yes. You can have the Rock, logo with the microphone. But we're thinking about WWE and who they would choose if that was the logo for them. So I got to say, Flair would be out of it, because he's not a WWE guy. No, so Flair would not be there. All right. So more than likely, the name we're not wanting to say would be the logo, I think. I think it would be Hogan, or it would be Andre. Because Dave brought up someone being old, some kids may not know. Right? Andre the Giant, The Rock, Stone Cold, or maybe in a distant 4th would be, The Undertaker and John Cena. I cannot pick that one. That's a hard one for me, Dice. I always call people pussyfoots for not picking one. I can't pick one right now. Because I'll be honest with you, if I had to pick one, fuck it, I got to do it. It would be him.
Pussyfooting? You pussyfooting around?
It was okay.
Crab-assing? You can't make a choice? You know what, Pastor Mike T, the old die man? I tell you who it's going to be, and I will tell you the reason why, and it's not even close. We are not in the realm of professional wrestling anymore. So the person that makes the most sense, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
He's a black man, Samoan even. They wouldn't pick him with him.
They would, because they don't consider him black.
They don't. They consider him Samoan.
He's Samoan. His family is arguably the greatest family in wrestling.
Probably the thickest family in wrestling. We've had that discussion. Who is more popular, the Von Erichs, the Harts, or the Anawanis?
Anawanis.
Now, I didn't say who's more popular, though.
I think so.
Do you know how big the Von Erichs were in the 80s?
Yeah, but
they ran Texas.
Sperm.
They ran Texas.
The only way I knew about them was playing Legends of Wrestling on PlayStation.
They ran Texas. And the A.W.A.
I would say that you would put The Rock on there for Sky bolting pro
I hate to say
wrestling
it. It wouldn't
into
be. Let's
pop
put him in
culture.
there. Let's put him in there.
Okay,
Would it be
let's
Hogan?
think about.
Would
okay,
it be
let's think
Hogan? 'Cause
about-
I think it would be Hogan.
Would it be Hogan? If
think
it would be Hogan. The reason why I put Rock over Hogan, right? Let's think. Hogan joined the company that tried to bury and almost succeeded, burying Vince McMahon.
People to this day still think that was a ruse.
So you think it was
Just like he did with Impact, like he did with TNA. It was all part of the script. Part of the script.
Okay. Oh God.
What do you say? Did you just get me started?
You did. Hold on. Please let me get my
I'm sorry, because you know I agree with that.
Let me get my rocks off.
Okay, get your blow your socks off. Make sure you're. Hold on, that's the wrong person I'm singing that to. Hey, baby, where you at?
Yeah, I think if you wanted to put Hogan there, that's fine. But you're speaking. Now, are you speaking from a wrestling? Or
I'm thinking.
Are we talking pro wrestling, or are we talking WWE sports entertainment?
I'm thinking if you're talking, we're talking
If
about
we're
the
talking
logo.
sports
The question is
entertainment, it has to be The
but the
Rock.
question is the WWE logo, right? That's the question. If
Put it
the
back up.
WWE had a logo,
Put it back up.
okay. If the WWE had a logo, if WWF, had a logo like the NBA, same thing. WWE, who would be on the logo? And I gotta say
that changes everything. I thought that I seen the WWF. I thought that I seen WWF. Wasn't sure.
But I've seen the same question among social media as well, and it was the WWE. It was actually pro wrestling. So that's why I chose
we're not
to
doing technical. Okay, we're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
If pro wrestling had a logo,
if they're going to say that this is what sports entertainment is
Hogan's
all about,
still more popular than The Rock. Let me
I don't-
rephrase that. Not more popular, more known.
more known.
When in the
Okay,
aisles of
think-
wrestling. In the
think
aisles
about-
of wrestling.
In the aisle, okay, but think about the crossover appeal that
100%.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson
There would be
has.
no Dwayne The Rock Johnson if there wasn't for Hulk Hogan with 3K.
This is true, but as greats, are they not able to be surpassed?
Absolutely. The only one who can't be surpassed is Michael Jordan because it has something to do with basketball. You brought it out, motherfucker. You said this shit. Okay. LeBron will never be Mike because it has nothing to do with basketball. It's why we call him the
That's
GOAT.
fine. That's fine.
All right,
My
I'm
Michael
sorry.
Jordan was Kobe Bean Bryant.
Yeah, but even your Michael Jordan knew that it was only one Michael Jordan. So that's makes
fine.
my point even
But there's
better.
only one Kobe Bryant.
But
Like,
Kobe
there's only
Bryant
gonna
couldn't
be
be
one
Kobe without
LeBron
Mike.
James.
But Kobe even said, don't even talk about me without seeing him. That's different. Kobe even said, don't say I'm better than him because I'm him.
Listen,
So
you can
that's his words. Okay. I got him.
Mad
Big tips
Dog.
in the chat.
Let
Big-
me at you right now.
No, you gonna tell me who the
Mad,
hell's on your Mount
Mad
Rushmore
Dog
for?
Kelly.
No, mother, who's on your not your Mount Rushmore? Who the hell's on your logo?
It's going to be Hogan with the leg drop then.
It has to be.
If we're talking wrestling,
But
and we're
politically speaking, he's kicked out this the existence. He
but
can't
if
be.
we're talking,
you're
if we're
going-
talking sports entertainment, it's the
You're going to
Rock.
Rock. I think it's the Rock as well. I think that infamous "Do you smell?" You know what I'm saying? Is more over. It can be more accepted even than Stone Cold's.
With the fist up. I think that's
That one.
Even if they wanted to put a belt hanging from it with a silhouette, I mean, I think that would be pretty.
Or
good.
that one. I like that. So we're going with the Rock for the logo. The Rock is the logo of professional wrestling. Okay. Now, listen. Just to before you go. This has been a question of the day because the big news of the day was that AEW's own Jim Ross was asked who's the best wrestler in the world. And the man said, still to this day, it's Randy freaking Orton. And every wrestler, including Mr. Y2J, had a lot to say about him saying that. Jericho was quoted first by someone. I'm going to quote Jericho, but saying, I've wrestled everybody that's wrestling today that's the top in the business, and there is no one better than Kenny Omega. There's a reason why he has all the belts. All I got to do is say, baloney. And you know I don't like baloney. Okay? So attack as you will, my brother, while I sit back on this, whether you not know what's in my cup.
Now, you know that my guy is Orton. 100%.
That's why I had to say it.
I've been there with Orton since the Orton injury report in 2002.
That's when I became a fan too.
Jim Ross is right, but Jim Ross is wrong.
How? Kenny Omega the best wrestler. Kim, don't you? I'm gonna be
Jim Ross said he's the best wrestler. I don't think so. I think that he's possibly the best character, the best at playing a character later on in his career. However,
you said he was wrestler of the year last year. Just saying.
I did say he was wrestler of the year last year because AJ Styles didn't have a really good storyline.
Okay.
But if we want to talk about the best wrestler today,
Skip,
it's 43-year-old AJ Styles. It's 43-year-old AJ Styles.
Every time
it's
I think he's gonna do something great,
AJ Styles.
he lets me down every time. Y'all see his face? He's
every single. Listen to me when I tell you this.
Can I just get one pause?
Hold on. I gotta make this comparison.
Okay.
There's a certain wrestler that we regard as the greatest wrestler, not character, not big man, not high flyer. He is the greatest wrestler. Who is that guy?
Shawn Michaels.
Bullshit. That guy is Kurt freaking Angle.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant that way. I'm sorry. You're right. Okay. My bad.
There's multiple people to say in that ring,
circle,
in character.
Well, no,
when
honestly,
he is on,
they all say Shawn Michaels, but if you want to be real,
he's the performer.
Performer, right?
Performer.
But I don't think nobody can touch the wrestling machine, Kurt Angle inside square. Not Brett, not Shawn. Okay, continue your soliloquy.
I'm going big balls here. Brazen, big balls. AJ Styles' run, he was wrestler of the year for how many years in a row? It doesn't matter.
3.
He was on a tear, just like Kurt Angle is regarded for like 5 years in a row as greatest wrestler in the world, as the wrestling machine. AJ Styles has a wrestling machine type persona when he is in that ring.
What did Janet Jackson? Which is not his fault. Do not take that. I'm taking nothing away from AJ. You cannot be wrestler of the year or the best wrestler in the world when you're not being portrayed as one. That's all I'm saying. And that's why, unfortunately, no fault of his own, he's out of the equation because he has not been portrayed that way recently. Okay. Recently, you've seen Orton in the top of his game going against Edge and everybody else.
On that route, you have a very great point. That's a very great point.
That's the only reason why.
I'm just going to back down. I'm going to back out of the paint.
Listen,
too strong.
Is that pretty straight like it? That just get messy. Y'all don't understand.
What did I just say though? What did I just say beforehand? I said Orton.
Here.
He's right. I said he's right about Orton.
This was given to me by Haines City Little League, my team Little Dicks. L Dicks, that is. This is now yours. Okay. You are the little dick of the day. I love it. I cannot believe that he disagreed with me about anything with AJ Styles. Holy moly donut shop. Listen.
Just because you threw in the little curveball that I was not thinking about, was not expecting.
It was more like a knuckle. I gave you a Tim Wakefield.
It was okay. It was a knuckleball. Yeah, I can't tell them bitches from fastballs or curveballs. It was definitely a knuckleball. You threw that in my whole soliloquy, and
yeah, I think your W Mount Rushmore was like Triple H. Was
it?
Yeah. I'm not messing with you right now. Okay. But in that conversation, I didn't think there has to be something about people have to understand something about Jim Ross. And I said this, and I got a lot of flack for it. Some people say Jim Ross is the greatest of all time. I'm not one of those guys. I don't think JR and King are the best. To me,
you better not put Shivani up there.
No, it was Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan, or Gorilla Monsoon and Lord Alfred Hayes. Okay, I'm a Gorilla Monsoon, and I'm also a Gordon Sully guy. And
would you not put Vince McMahon somewhere in there?
I would put Vince in. I would put Vince in like my top 5. But I'm also putting number 3, which would be a lot of people's number 1 who gets no credit. Oh my God! Like, he's just insane. He was a one-man crew. He did play-by-play and color. Did Joey Greco. Or not Joey. Shit, I'm thinking about
Joey Styles.
Joey Styles. But overall, Jim Ross is old. Okay. And you guys gotta understand that he's not just out of touch, he's old, and he's been hired because who he is, and you want to get AEW over, and you do that by having a confident and a knowledgeable and a known commentator. And I like what they do for Raw. Okay, so Jim Ross is out of touch. He should have never said, even if he feels that way, that there's Randy Orton over his company's own Kenny Omega. He should have never mentioned that. Okay, but I do like the fact that he mentioned Randy Orton. I thought that was pretty dope. Guys, Seth Rollins beat Triple H with a bad leg at WrestleMania 33. Your point there, Mad Dog.
Hey, Mad Dog. You know it's all storyline, right?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. That's White Jesus Devontae Christ Rollins. Okay, get his name right. Okay. Tonight on Raw, though, Dice, we got a lot of bullshit we can deal with. And one of the things that tonight on Raw, it's tonight. We have to sit back and watch it, and it's just what it is.
Well, listen, I'm glad I got me a bottle right now because I'm gonna need to be drunk to get through these fucking Raws.
I'm mad. I gotta get Dave LaGreca back on because one of the things I want to touch on, even today, and we don't have time for it. I mean, we do, but we don't. Is the thing tonight, right? With Lashley and Kofi Kingston. I'm not sure if you guys noticed this, and I don't want to put us in a bad sour note for next week's show or leading to next week's show or our Twitter accounts and get us that way as well. Is I still think there's racism in professional wrestling. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, like even when it comes to the Intercontinental title, notice how the match started off. If you remember that match, it was you got two whites, two blacks in the ring. The whites fought, the blacks fought. Lately during this pandemic era, there's been a lot of black and white fighting. I don't know if I'm sorry. These are things that I notice. Okay, the blacks fight the blacks.
Nobody checks for that stuff but you.
People do. I'm just here to talk about it.
But no, hold up. The thing that you didn't address the fact that these four men all have beef, and there's the black guys are fighting the black guys because they've had beef, and then the white guys are fighting the white guys because they have beef.
You immediately went to. But why do all the blacks fight the blacks and all the whites fight the whites? Okay, before the Fatal 4-Way, who was fighting who? It was white on white and black on black. Like, if you get COVID, you can't get it from a black. You can't get it from a white. I'm just saying. COVID has changed the game. I know. That's my wild tank for today. Real fast, we got to hear Dice. Suck it or too sweet. And what we got?
All right. Suck it or too sweet. I think I already touched on the Velveteen Dream thing. Still very touchy. It kind of pisses me off, but we're not going to get into that.
No, we will. I'm gonna say this. I got frozen on that screen.
You did. You was like this.
Innocent to proven guilty. I've always said that. I'm gonna say it again, and I could be wrong, and that's fine. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But we gotta stop accusing people because that's the cool thing to do. Okay. Right. And when this stuff first happened, me and you both sat back and said, "Hey, I need more than just these inbox of a so-called text message between each other."
Because we can all there's Photoshop and the shit that I can do with this motherfucking note. The shit that I can do with this. I could put some titties on Mike's head right now.
Right on my head. Straight up.
Like he came from Total Recall.
Total Recall and titties. Total Recall and titties. Okay. What we got?
Too sweet or two words. I just came across this actually.
Okay. I'm ready for this
Carlito says Shawn Michaels flat out told him he didn't like him.
I would say suck it because everything, and not just the biography that was way better last week than it was this week with the Ultimate Warrior, and his wife not liking at all what they did on Dark Side of the Ring. I've never heard Shawn Michaels at the moment where we've seen Carlito. Like Carlito wasn't here when Shawn Michaels was younger. Carlito came back when Shawn Michaels had quote unquote found God, and that Shawn Michaels we haven't heard anything negative about. So him saying that. How was that said? I don't like what you do in the ring. I don't like you spitting. That text can be taken out of context. And so until we get the full context, there's like the Bible, there's pretext and there's post-text. But what matters is what's in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and suck that till I get more information on that.
Do you think that because of his character that he kind of believed that hype behind his character and he could do whatever he wanted? So maybe that's why it was like, I think they could be believable because he might have believed the hype in his character too much, sort of MJF-ish.
That's why I say for now, suck it till we get more. The context of that information is not fully given, and that's where we have to be who we are. Dave may not be a journalist. I'm still a journalist. That's what I went to school to be. It's my job to uncover the truth before I get out there and spew what it's not facts.
Yes. And then the other one was Keith Lee. Keith Lee being released by WWE because he's not been on screen.
Definitely saying suck it. his fiance,
Mia
Yams, came out and said it's none of nobody's business. It's clearly something going on. We don't know what it is. I don't think Keith Lee is getting fired, but it's just something we just don't know. That's all. Let's hope it's not nothing criminal, right? And move on from there. So that's my take on that.
And the last thing, it's not too sweet or 2 words for you, but just want to give a huge shout out and a get well soon to N.W.A, who took a nasty DDT on concrete.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because of all I thought about was the Jake the Snake DDTing shit, his name, Ricky Steamboat on the concrete when I was a kid. That shit was so real. It was like, oh my God.
So he took it to concrete, and I'm guessing that it was a bad fall.
I bet he wishing he was back in WWF right now.
Fucked up some shit on his neck. So
damn.
he did post a video on his Instagram, pretty much cutting a promo. So I'm guessing that he's okay. But shout out to him for being a trooper and still staying in character with the shits. And I wish him a speedy recovery, even though he doesn't know who the fuck I am. I'm still a wrestling fan, damn it. So
it's real to me, damn it.
He can refer to me as Big Kisk in the chat. That's all I got.
Okay,
I thought you were frozen for a minute. You had the dog in the headlights look. I thought you was frozen. I had to make sure.
That was the worst thing ever happened to me. In the end of an interview, the shit froze. Like my internet, I'm literally watching this shit go. I looked over, the TV's going buffing. I'm like, what the fuck is my TV buffing for? And I got smart shit, right? So if my TV's losing internet, that means I lost internet, which is they're getting a call, okay? Because that's some bullshit, okay? I pay for a lot of shit, Spectrum, okay, to be doing that. But tonight on Raw, we got to hear what do you expect good from the night on Raw, if there's anything good tonight on Raw. Because listen, I gotta say it, the greatest women's wrestler of all the times, Charlotte Flair, will be on TV tonight, and that's all that matters to me.
That's not all that matters. Nia Jax, big voluptuous red
Beauty and
velvet
the Beast,
cake ass.
Beauty and the Beast. I told y'all I never know who was Beauty and who's the Beast. You decide.
You better stop disrespecting Nia right now.
I'm just saying. I'm not one to say.
I called it last week when we were sitting in the Xbox party. I think that there's going to be a New Day and Drew McIntyre match versus Bobby Lashley and RK Bro. That if that happens, I think something happens between Riddle and Xavier, and we'll kind of fill it out. But if we don't get that this week, it'll be next week. But something, Orton's in that gray area, so if they're gonna do a 6-man tag with them, it's definitely going to put him out of the gray area. Like RK Bro is going to be, I think they're going to be a.
Have you not seen Amira?
I think that
you want
at some point they got to flip the full switch on RK Bro. Either they're heels or their faces. And
I think it's still a little bit too soon, and we get a little bit more of that clarification tonight, right? Because we know what Orton historically is, right? But we know what Riddle has been here. And he got touched with having to choose a side last week. And so I do love to see the dynamic of that coming out this week of them choosing the side of, what they're going to do. I don't think it's that crystal clear. The way that it's, I think they like having these type of tag teams where, like, think about Team Hell No. You're like, one person's a face, one person's a heel. Like it's gonna take on somebody to like flip the switch to make them, heelish or babyface. I think what Riddle did last week is kind of setting the seeds for them to actually turn heel. We're gonna find tonight. Tomatoes.
Well, other than that, there's
not
nothing really to look forward to. I don't even know what the hell AJ Styles and Omos is doing right now. Like, they have no contenders. Elias keep getting his ass whipped with Jackson Riker. Like, New Day is focused on some other shit. Like,
Singles.
nobody is there to contend. Viking Raiders, I ain't seen them. We didn't talk about the promo with the Street Profits and
What? The Street Profits promo. Everybody always wants to give my man Bianca Belair's husband the credit when everybody knows that D'Lo Brown's son is the real star. If y'all would just stop hating.
Man, listen, he was
He's
out there
the real star.
He was out there quoting J. Cole lyrics as his own.
Of course he was. Just like this Friday, we gonna be quoting the new DMX album's lyrics.
Yes,
What's
sir.
the point?
Yes, sir.
Listen,
sir.
With that being said, guys, we're gonna get up out of here. Dice, where can they find you at? And most importantly, plug the gamers, the streamer channel, because we're going to do big things at Guam, baby.
Everybody, if you are into good conversation, some funny shit happening, or just some funny raging, you need to follow the Z is Silent on Facebook. Type it in. Z is Silent. You can follow Z is Silent on Instagram and on Twitter. Twitch, and not so much. They don't be want to pay nobody, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we still got to get it any way possible. We are trying to build brands. If you building a brand, inbox me, yo, brand building shit. Let's do this. Let's make a network. We can only support each other if we support each other.
Orderly! Viva la... Okay, my bad. I heard Vicky Guerrero in my ear. Listen, we'll get out of here, guys. Do me a favor. Do not wake up tomorrow morning and say to yourself, I love me some me and don't love God. That's crazy, y'all. We're out of here, y'all.
Everybody's got a price. Everybody's gonna pay. But the $1 million man always gets his way. $1 million man.
Yeah. It's like the illest posse cut right here, man. Sean Watts on the track. Zeus. Don One. Rude Boy, Quill, The Gift, and yours truly, Fred Knoxxx. I'm 1 in a million with $1 million flow. Fred DiBiase got the power in it though. If it's a problem, let me know, or I suggest you let it go. Cause it ain't worth the problems that be knocking at your door, homie.